could you discuss Janusz Korczak, because he is such a example of exactly what you were saying.
Yeah. Well, Janusz Korczak was from a very assimilated, family. He didn't even know Yiddish. This is one of my drawings of him.
It's superb.
Where is he? These are, this whole thing from here to here is translations into English and Hebrew of his books, from here to here. This is from a by Andrzej Wajda, famous for people who are into films, international films. Polish filmmaker, probably Poland, together with Krzysztof Kieslowski, the most famous. There are several really big film artists from Poland. Poland has an awful lot of, poets and writers and philosophers. Czesław Miłosz, with an L in English, who was a great friend of the Jews and wrote profoundly against protesting and the Holocaust. Czesław Miłosz. Many poets. Well, Janusz Korczak was from an assimilated Jewish family. He didn't even know Yiddish. This is from a film by Andrzej Wajda called Korczak, and you can rent it, for the advertisement, from Amazon for like $6 or something. It's in black and white, the film, and it's an amazing film. And I have studied Janusz Korczak a lot. I was told that the course at Hebrew University here in Jerusalem that I taught on Janusz Korczak was the first time anyone taught a whole course on Janusz Korczak. I called it The Spiritual Life of Children, according to Janusz Korczak. And they figured almost everybody in Israel, most Jews anyway, many Jews, have heard of Janusz Korczak. But they thought, that most don't. So they gave me a small seminar room for about, 12 people. And about, how many people showed up? About 40, 50 people showed up for this course called Janusz Korczak, The Spiritual Life of Children, according to Janusz Korczak. And out of the some 40 students, about a dozen were Palestinian Israeli citizens who are students at Hebrew University, Christians and Muslims. They came also to the course. And how did I teach the course? If you're getting to know me a little bit through this interview or this streaming out loud of different thoughts of what is most dear to me, my credo, my ani ma'amin, you'll already be able to guess that I didn't teach it by lecturing. So, for example, he has a piece that he wrote, "Why do I clean up after the children from their after eating or whatever?" He was very famous in Poland during his life. He wrote several books that became very famous, and he gave a series of radio talks and giving advice of how to act in different situations to children and to parents. And so he was very well known in Poland. And check out the Andrzej Wajda film.
So why did he clean up after the children?
Thank you. So what would happen is he was so famous that there were many people who came to visit the orphanage, before the war. And they would ask, where's, we came to meet Dr. Korczak. He taught at Warsaw University about children and everything. And this is a scene from the film where he brought one of the children to one of his lectures, and he did something there with the child. But they would come, and he'd be wearing like a janitor's, something over his clothes, because he was cleaning up, and they would see him cleaning up the floor or the dishes, and they would say, "Where is, Dr. Korczak?" And he would kind of play with them a little bit for a while, but then someone else would tell them, or he would then say, I'm Dr. Korczak, Janusz Korczak, and they would be, surprised because he was so famous. He shouldn't be, just cleaning up after, the children. So Janusz Korczak, if you look on the web, online, for a website called Academia, just like it sounds, ACADEMIA, academia.edu. Many professors of Jewish studies, French studies, science, everything, they put their papers there, and for nothing you can see them. And if you'll go to academia.edu and put in my name, Steve, or Steve.
It appears, I've done it.
And I have about 27 of my essays, and now I just added, by the way, 3 videos of me teaching, sharing, learning texts, certain religious Talmudic texts, and talking about Psalm 23. So you can go to academia.edu. If I haven't scared you away already, you can see.
I would highly recommend.
Yeah. So why do I mention it related to Korczak? Because I have a couple of writings there. One of them is just 1.5 pages, where there was, when I was in Boston, Brandeis University had a film festival of Andrzej Wajda's films, and one of them is Korczak. So they asked people to offer a short introduction, very short, to each of the films, and then to lead a discussion afterwards. So you'll see that my little introduction that I wrote in the style of Korczak's writing, because he had a very special style of writing. And you'll also see my longer essay, a long essay, not too long, I don't want to frighten you, but regular length essay on what I call Janusz Korczak's philosophy of religious idealism. Realistic idealism. Realistic idealism. You see? And you can hear from others of what I'm sharing with you that I try to be a realist idealist. As I say, people will ask me, how is life, Steve? And I say it's varied. They get upset, because they're surprised, because you're supposed to say it's great, God is great, I don't know, something like that. No, you have to be realistic.
And can I ask, is it true that with Janusz Korczak that he was given the opportunity to save himself?
Yes.
But he decided to go with the children.
Yes, there appears to be substantial evidence. In the movie it's shown where a woman, Nazi soldier, is given the word that he is exempt from entering the train with Stefa Wilczynski, who was his co-director. She went on Aliyah, by the way. Korczak was in Israel at Kibbutz Ein Harod for 2 visits of about a few weeks, and he wanted to stay in Israel, but he said in Palestine, the Jewish community of Israel then, but he said that he couldn't abandon his children in Poland, so he went back. Stefa stayed at Kibbutz Ein Harod, became a member of the kibbutz, and lived there for about a year. But when the Nazis came to power, and it was becoming threatening to Poland, and Korczak was becoming very depressed about the situation, she went back. I think it was in August, the beginning of August. They were at a Korczak summer camp. And then there was a Christian summer camp. He had Christian devotees, and the anti-Semitism was so high that, society wouldn't really, most of it, a lot of it, too much of it, go along with his doing stuff directly with Christian. So he had colleagues who were going by his ideas of education, like Stefa Wilczynski, and she was at their summer camp, and then and they set up, by the way, his Christian friends, a safe house. They bribed the Nazis, and they had a safe house that they just had to convince him to go with them, and he would be able to be safe through the war. But of course, he just, he just said that's. In fact, in the movie, there's a scene where he says to them, Stefan Wilczynski was his co-director. What was her name? The Christian. At the moment, I'm thinking so many thoughts but one of his most dear Christian disciples came with the letter, the writing that would free him allow him to get out, to escape the ghetto. And he just said to her, "How can you offer me such a thing when you, of all people, know me so well?" As he was starting to choke up. No, he was going to go with the children. So the same thing is a scene in the film where this military Nazi woman says, "Where's Korczak?" And they were boarding. The scene shows that they were boarding the cattle cars with the kids. And they came up, and when he saw that she was coming with, waving in her hand, a document, he figured what it might be, and he just turned his back and entered the car, and they closed the doors.
And he was one of the. He was killed. He was killed in the death camps.
He was not just killed. Of course, he was murdered. This is my realism again. He was murdered with his approximately 200 children at Treblinka. How can such things?
But he epitomizes that philosophy of who am I? My money for myself. He was prepared to go with his children.
And these universal ideas of God, and that God, he was very religious, but the God is not some human-like thing. I wanted to,